Taking away a medal from under 23 world champion, who we all know really won, is a big deal. What's up everybody, it's your man Willie Smit here. This is my YouTube channel and today we'll be talking about quite a few things. So I'm just going to touch one topic in this specific vlog, and it's mainly my opinion about what happened yesterday. So Nils Eekhof was disqualified yesterday after the race, after winning, after he crashed with more than 124 kilometers to go for apparently drafting more than 15 seconds according to the UCI jury. So I want to make it clear that I separate the jury from the UCI because, like in any company, as I would like to refer to it, the UCI, you get good people, bad people, you get better workers, worst workers, and you get people that understand the sport and know how to interpret certain rules, know when to throw a blind eye, and you get people that don't know how and when to do that. And the biggest problem that I'm touching on here is the fact that the rules aren't implied consistently. However, most of the time a blind eye is thrown to these rules because the rules are not applied consistently, because it's absolute rubbish at times, and 90% of riders in Grand Tours will not be able to finish Grand Tours if one of the rules, like drafting for more than 50 seconds, is just enough to disqualify a rider, which basically means that after a crash or after a puncture, especially when you have a disc brake bike, it will be kind of impossible to get back. And for the riders that are not on the same level as Chris Froome's or Primož Roglič or Alejandro Valverde, they'll probably not be able to get back to the peloton. Well, most of the riders won't be able to get back to the peloton and will probably miss a cutoff or be completely fucked from the effort, and their tour or race will kind of be over. So they might as well just throw the bike on the roof and leave. And the people know this, so that's most of the time why people throw a blind eye to these rules. But what we're touching here is the inconsistency that is applied by the jury. The facts that I want to touch here is that if 15 seconds is a maximum that you're allowed to draft behind the car, most people in Grand Tours will not be able to finish them. It means that 90% of the time that you puncture or crash, you might as well go home directly because you'll never get back to the peloton, especially when you have a puncture with the disc brakes. And also remember, most of the races are raced full gas the first hour until the breakaway goes, a quick nature break, and then the speed ramps up. So you'll be very lucky if you punch or crash in the period when the bunch slows down and the breakaway is away, which is probably about maximum 10 to 15 minutes. But if you punch it before that or after that, especially in the start, you fuck. And another thing I want to say is that riders should, in this case, should be disqualified immediately if this is how they want to apply the UCI rules, because he crashed with more than 125 kilometers to go. So obviously he's not put into any advantage by drafting back with the cars, because his energy expenditure is much more after having crashed and trying to get back and then getting back to the back of the peloton and then having to move all the way to the front. Opinion, he should have then been disqualified immediately, and they only disqualified him after he won. So you also have to take into consideration he played a huge role in the outcome of the race as well. So perhaps a rider who was second would not have been second, as how he influenced the race. So that's another problem you have when you don't disqualify a rider immediately. And I know Tim Pitcock, from what I saw on Twitter, had a bike change apparently from someone next to the road in front of him, which is also kind of illegal. But you know, coming back to the throwing a blind eye rule, you look past it because actually he's not being put in any advantage. But then why wasn't he disqualified? So you know, we can go on through the whole race like that, and all the footage can be reviewed of any rider, blah blah blah. But you get where I'm going with this. But I'm not pointing the finger necessarily, but I am trying to say that the same rules don't apply to everyone, and it's all up to the jury's interpretation, and there's no decision, there's no consistency in the decision making, and this is really pissing people off. But there, like I said, there is no consistency in the decision making because of the blind eye rule. But most cases when the blind eye rule is implied, as I would like to call it, it's because the rider punched or crashed, and he has absolutely no advantage, and he's actually at a disadvantage because he has to chase back. Even though he's drafting behind a car, he still has no advantage, I can promise you that. So yeah, the people are quite frustrated because not much has changed in the UCI over the last 100 years, it seems. So what exactly in regards to this topic is the point that I am trying to make? The point is that the individuals that are wearing UCI shirts don't exactly know how to imply the blind eye rule, don't exactly know how to imply the UCI rules, and when they apply the UCI rules, it's very inconsistent over the year. And this what has created a lot of frustration in the decision in disqualifying Nils Eekhof. But also we all know that, for example, Primož Roglič, not just him was assisted with the jury let the cars pass. Movistar was riding hard on the front, and if it wasn't for the cars, he wouldn't have gotten back, and many of the other pre-race favorites had also actually finished on the podium. Ultimately, the cars helped them get back after this crash. The blind eye rule was applied because the people actually understand cycling. So my question here is, that jury that made this decision, that took away all the hard work that Nils Eekhof, the under-23 world champion in my books, they took away all that hard work, all that sacrifice he made. And people that understand endurance sport understand that, all the pain, the suffering, the sacrifices that he went through. And they also understand that one individual wearing a UCI shirt, or let's say about 4 or 5 of them wearing a UCI shirt, these 5 individuals, 4 or 5 or 6, however big the jury was at this World Championships, the problem is they took away this rider's result without any consistency and good reasoning behind their decision, because we know their reason is absolute rubbish. So what is my conclusion to all of this? It's that, so if you want to apply your rules according to how they are written down in the UCI rules and in the bylaws, you should do so consistently. However, you know, if those rules are applied consistently as they are written down, it would destroy the sport, and that 90% of riders participating in Grand Tours would probably be disqualified, and riders who punch or crash would probably not make the cutoff and never get back to the peloton. And most cases, let's for example say many of the Grand Tour contenders that have gotten back in cars will never win a Grand Tour whenever they punch or crash, which is actually stupid. And what I'm basically trying to say is that, you know, by applying these rules 100%, it's rubbish, so why not just change them? So my personal solution to that is perhaps adjust the rule book a little bit, actually employ a jury at important events like this, especially a World Championship, that has been a past professional cyclist, that actually understands how cycling works and actually applies the blind eye rule correctly and knows how to apply consistency to their decision making and taking everything that happened into consideration, as opposed to a jury that doesn't understand cycling. Probably some of them have never been professional World Tour cyclists in the past, and who apply their rules inconsistently and don't know how to interpret the blind eye rule. These juries are actually protected by the UCI and the UCI's own rules, which means they ultimately have no consequences for their decision making. So what the hell does that mean? Taking away a medal from under 23 world champion, who we all know really won, is a big deal.